I'm in conversation with writer Ken Follett on Off the Record, and for those of you who've just tuned in and have missed the first part of the interview, you can go to YouTube and just type in Ndtv Hindu, Ken Follett, Off the Record, and Anuradha Anant. Ken, tell us about the influences, the other literary influences, because I read that you have huge libraries in all your 3 homes, and you have a Picasso print of Balzac which occupies pride of place above the fireplace. So apart from him, who else has influenced your writing?
Well, you know, the important writers for me were the writers, not people who influenced my style, but the writers who taught me that literature is exciting. So as a child, like most British children, I read Enid Blyton's stories. Now, Enid Blyton is not thought of as a literary giant, but she's very important because she made books exciting for us as kids. Then when I was 12 years old, I read my first James Bond story by Ian Fleming, Live and Let Die, marvellous book. First line begins, "There are moments of great luxury in the life of a secret agent." What a good first line. And I loved those James Bond stories as a teenager. And when I started to, in my 20s, to try and write novels myself, I wanted my readers to be as excited about my books as I was about a new James Bond story. That thrill, I thought, was... So, although I don't write like Ian Fleming, I don't have his style. He writes about a loner. My characters are always in families. So we're very different in that way. But the important thing, but Fleming was nevertheless very important to me in giving me that sense of excitement, which is, for me, what literature needs to be about.
I was wondering about how important is it to include steamy scenes in thrillers? Because when I read Lie Down with Lions, there are a couple of scenes, and I thought they were completely unnecessary and in fact sort of impeded the galloping action of the novel, actually.
I had a letter from a fan who said, I've just finished Lie Down with Lions and I wanted to tell you, it was a woman, and I wanted to tell you how much I enjoyed it. And then she said, P.S. if the love scene is based on your own experience, please call my number next time you're in California.
Ah, so no wonder you're including them in the book. How is that the reason?
The real reason is that in Victorian novels, a love story ended usually with the first kiss or a proposal of marriage, maybe a wedding. And modern readers are different. Modern readers know that the wedding is not the end of the story. And that in fact, when 2 people take their clothes off and get into bed together, it's the beginning of a story, not the end. And it's a drama. And so I write the dramatic scene. Usually, quite often, the woman is shy and nervous, and she's thinking, what will he think of me when he sees me naked? The guy may be thinking, I hope my equipment works the way it's supposed to work. This is a drama. And because we live in the 21st century and we're not as shy as we were 100 years ago, we can write about these things, and we can instead of stopping the love story artificially at the bedroom door or at the church or the wedding, we can continue the love story, and we can see how these people eventually, how these people find happiness after they have become lovers. That's quite important in modern novels. I like to do that because I like to take the love story further along the road, and readers like it too. Now,
Pillars of the Earth has been made into a $40 million mini-series for telecast in parts of Europe, England, Ireland, Canada and America, and you were very, very involved with the production. Ken hung out on the sets. The director says that you were not nitpicky at all, and guess what? He even acted as an Anglo-French merchant. What was that experience like?
It was a wonderful experience. I learned so much. I had written about medieval clothing many times and never put it on. And this, for the first time, I realized how cumbersome and hot this medieval costume is. The makeup process was very interesting. We all had dirt painted under our fingernails by the makeup artist because she said medieval people didn't wash as often as modern people, so their hands would have been dirty and their faces would have been dirty. We didn't shave. The men were told not to shave. In the Middle Ages, people shaved twice a year. And So all that was quite interesting, and then the process of filming is interesting. I admire actors so much, you know, because they do the same thing again and again. You do something perfectly and the director says, now do it again. We shoot from a different angle, over the shoulder, whatever. There was one moment I was watching an actress. She's telling a story, she's telling about something awful that happened to her, and she's crying. And they're filming this, and tears come to my eyes, and I think, don't be a fool, Follett. You wrote this. Mm-hmm. Why are you? But she had that power as an very young actress, and she's doing this, and a plane came over, and the director said, "Cut." So everything falls apart, and we wait for the plane to go away, and we get it together, and we start again, and he says, "Action," and she's doing it again, mm-hmm. and I've got tears in my eyes again. It's fantastic what actors do. So I really enjoyed that, working, such a privilege to work with good actors.
You're very lucky as far as rankings and ratings go, because Pillars of the Earth is one of the highest rated TV shows in Spain for a non-sports program.
Highest ratings they've ever had for something that wasn't a football match.
So you play the bass guitar with a band called, what's it called now?
It's called Damn Right I Got the Blues.
Damn Right I Got the Blues. He likes Stephen King and Jane Austen. Your dad was a tax inspector. You have 3 homes with large libraries. Well, tell us something that we don't know, something to surprise me.
Well, I think you've just given, in about 1 minute, all the essential information about my life. What don't you know? I like to go to bed early. It's a great luxury.
Is that because you wake up early and start working? You seem to have such a disciplined and punishing schedule, because the next part in the trilogy is going to be out in 2012 and the third part in 2014, which means just 2 years to write each book. So you must be like a fiendishly hard worker.
Well, I do have to work quite hard to keep to this timetable, and if I find myself falling behind, I'll have to work Sundays as well as Saturdays. But you know, first of all, I shouldn't complain, it's so well rewarded, but also I'm so engaged with it. It's so interesting. It's so fascinating to try and do this, to cast this magic spell over millions of people so that they will read something that I just made up in my head, and they will be involved in it and anxious to know what happens next. That's such a miracle. I really don't mind if I work.
And does being married to an ex-politician, your wife is an ex-Labour MP and a political activist, does that help?
It certainly helps me with Fall of Giants, because for the last 15 years or so, my friends have been the people who are running the country. You know, the people I go to restaurants with and the people I go on holiday with have been MPs and ministers and cabinet ministers. And so I've seen them talking. I'm on the outside, I have no power, but I've seen how they make decisions and how these political things work out. And so when I came to write high politics in Fall of Giants, decisions about whether to go to war or whether to make peace and so on, I felt very confident that I knew how those people would talk about it and how they would make the decision, because I've seen it every day of my life.
And The Eye of the Needle was your 11th book, and
yeah.
it became an instant and international success, but there were books before that, right? So what is your advice to aspiring writers? Keep at it?
Well, I was encouraged, of course. Those early books of mine were not bestsellers, but they were published. One of the lessons I had to learn in those days was to be a perfectionist. When I started, I thought, well, I'm just writing a thriller, so I don't really need to characterize these people in depth or to describe the landscape or the cityscape very beautifully. And I realized after a while, look, you can't say that. You can't say, I don't need to worry about X. You've got to worry about it all. The characters must be as profound and as complex as I can possibly make them. The description of the cityscape must be as vivid and dramatic as I can possibly do it, even if it's just a thriller. Everything that I write has to be the very best I can possibly do, and then it may only be barely adequate.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and I'd like to tell our viewers that this book is not just a good read, it's an experience and a very, very rare treat. So it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you.